We're entering into a new phase of my teachings that are going to get us one step closer to the kingdom of heaven on earth, aka Atlantis 2.0. And I wanted to use this video to sort of sum up everything that's happened so far and why I did all the things that I did, so people can really understand what the mission is, what my intentions are, because it doesn't seem that it's quite clear to people, or I'd be getting a much more revelatory response. This phase, I believe, is sort of the semi-final phase, that once I teach this one and then we break into the last phase of the teachings, we're going to be able to create a universal philosophy, a mystic tradition that merges shamanism, psychedelics, Platonic thought, the mystic tradition, the ideas of the Kabbalah, the Tetragrammaton, the hyperdimensional geometric lattice of creation. And once we get there, once we unify all of the philosophies and religions and sciences into one cohesive discipline and practice, we will be able to create an extremely harmonious planet, civilization, and human relationship collectively. So let's discuss some of the things we've already covered and why they're important. First off, the blood of Christ. It's a joke. It's not real. It's a black magic blood ritual that was meant to keep us all in this mindset that we are in debt, that we're inherently sinful, and that we can't be like Christ. Okay, if you look back at true history, real history, you'll find that at the Council of Nicaea, where they decided that Christ was God who became man. And by the way, the reason that no one can really accurately or intelligently explain the Holy Trinity to you the way traditional and institutionalized religion has taught you is because it's not real. It's Fugazi. It can't explain it, and it never makes sense because it doesn't make sense at its core. God can't be himself and the Son and sacrifice his Son and it be himself and the Son be different from him, and that he actually feels sadness for sacrificing his Son if he actually is God. It's stupid. And that's why every time you ask about the Holy Trinity in this way, everyone talks in circles and they can't give you an answer. And you leave the conversation more confused than when you started. Because it's a joke. Okay, you look back at history during the Council of Nicaea. The major argument of the First Council of Nicaea was whether Christ was a man who became godly or like God, or a God who became man. The consensus before this council was that Jesus was a bodhisattva or a Buddha or an enlightened one, a person who attained God-like status. And then Constantine and all of his corrupt religious leaders that he had under his thumb pushed the narrative that it was a God who became man, and no human being could be like Christ, even though Christ still says in the book that you will do far greater things than I, that ye are gods. Why does none of your preachers, pastors, priests ever talk about the fact that you can be like Christ? Why do they keep on trying to put you under and tell you that you're inherently sinful? It's nonsense. Go back to Genesis. This is why Christ says to the Pharisees, is it not written in your law? Have I not said that ye are gods? Because he's reminding you that Genesis wasn't about original sin. It was about becoming like a god and then having to pay the toll or the price. This is why Adam must toil in the field and Eve must have pain during childbirth, because our heads got bigger, our brains got bigger, so it was a more painful birth. And because we were more developed mentally, it took us longer, took children longer to develop all the way to adulthood, because they're developing this extremely super powerful divine consciousness, which requires a lot more years under the wing of the mother. While Adam has to toil in the field because we've disconnected from nature. Was it a good thing to do? I don't know. But it doesn't make us inherently sinful. The story's being told wrong in all the churches. It's total BS. So we get this the sin thing, and then that's where they turn it into, well, that's why Christ had to come and die for your sins. It's a lie. It's disgusting. And the amount of people on the planet, numbering in the billions, still believe this is the case. The reason I went after it so hard is because you cannot have a true reformation of the spirit until you break the most powerful black magic spell that was casted upon us 2,000 years ago. And that is the blood of Christ washes over you and cleanses you of sins. Those sins don't exist. Sin means missing the mark. You can sin against yourself, against God, against nature, against your neighbor, against living things. You can totally do that. That's possible. but you don't have an original sin because some, like, your super great ancestors ate a piece of fruit off a freaking tree. It's insane on the face of it. Not to mention, that's not what the story is about, as I have just explained to you what the Garden of Eden story is actually about. It's us disconnecting from nature. Feeling shame from being naked is being aware of one's own animal nature and then trying to cover it up and become human, become a god. Okay? That's what that's all about. And that's why the gods say, they don't say when Adam and Eve eat the fruit, they don't say, oh, look how sinful and they have cursed themselves for years. No, they said, look, they are like one of us. Gods, Elohim, on the council of the higher celestial beings. So we have to break that spell, or we can't move forward. I can't create this universal philosophy that I was always meant to make. I'm supposed to make this. Call that what you want. Call me crazy, say I have a God complex, say I'm a megalomaniac. I am meant to create the new philosophy, the third covenant. All right? It is my destiny to do so. It is my duty and my pleasure to liberate humankind from all the lies and all the oppression, right? In the prison system, the Babylon system. That is my purpose. So let us talk about the next problem, and that is Yahweh. Yahweh is not real. It's a comic book character. It's a demon, okay, which evolves out of Baal and Moloch and Rephaim. They're all of the same spirit. Sacrifice. Not self-sacrifice for personal growth. Sacrifice of others, which violates the second commandment that Christ gave us when they said, what are the two greatest commandments? Love thy God and love thy neighbor the way you love thy God. I know some people say, love your neighbor as you love yourself. But no. Love thy neighbor the way you love thy God. Meaning you see all human beings as children of God. In God's likeness. When you sin against another person, you sin directly against God. So, this Yahweh character is an evil demonic entity. Now, it might also be an alien creature. Lots of people will make fun of you for speculating that the Bible is more about a cosmological drama of higher beings coming here and making humankind. Although everyone that wants to say that God is an intelligent creator and made us, they don't want to actually do the mental work to say, well, how would that happen in reality? Some people will say that, like, Adam and Eve are like, it's the spirit descending from higher dimensions and incarnating in the physical form. Sure, maybe. Okay? But a lot of people say that's woo-woo metaphysics. So then they'll say, oh, well, then they were made. Physically, they were made, which would require a local, physical, intelligent being for God. So this is other avenue of it. So when you look at Yahweh's characteristics, you see kind of a terrible being who tortures his subjects, who is jealous, who punishes them completely ridiculously. Like the punishment does not match up with the crime. Okay, so we're dealing with either some sort of other creature, some alien that didn't deserve to be our God in the first place, or we're dealing with a demonic spirit, and we're going to go into demonic spirits and what they are a little bit later, or we're dealing with both, that there was some kind of higher dimensional being which then traumatized all of humanity with the spirit of grief and fear and subservience and slavery and oppression. And that spirit lives on today. Yahweh sits on an unrightful throne in your mind. And it permeates all of culture, debt, this human trafficking, war for conquest. All of these things represent the Yahweh state of mind, the Yaldabaoth state of mind, the narcissistic state of mind. They're all wrapped up into each other. That's something people don't really get, that the spirit is a hyper complex being that is interwoven in everything: economy, religion. It's the Babylon system, Moloch, Baal, Yahweh, storm deities of destruction. If you look back at a lot of the words for God in the Old Testament, it is a shining lizard-like super being with superpowers that you do not even look in the eye because it is so dangerous. And the only reason you worship it is because you have to, or it'll eat you. Like, I didn't make that up. Okay, when you say God, you're saying a word that comes from Germanic Gott, G-O-T-T. G-O-T-T, actually, when they made that word, it collapsed all the different words for God throughout all of the cultures, especially the Judeo-Christian, and then it was just sort of like by implicit demand, all of the other traditions of religion, spirituality, mysticism go into this word Got, which becomes God. Here's the problem with that. Let's list all the different names of God. We have Brahma in Buddhism, which literally just means everything, like all of reality, okay? We have Hashem, which just means the name, because the true name of God isn't spoken. Not because it's hidden, because that's what a lot of people will tell you. Well, we say Hashem is a name holder because the name is too sacred to say. No, the name can't be said. That's the thing. Like when they're talking about the true one God, YHVH, the Tetragrammaton. The Tetragrammaton is the hyperdimensional geometric lattice of creation, which emanates out of the 11th dimension, which is curled in every Planck length of space-time, and allows for a zero-point energy to escape into any individual point of reality because we live in a holographic universe. Vibration, as we know, manifests the illusion of particle. God spoke the word became flesh. Abracadabra, as I speak, so I create. Exodus 3:14, Moses asked God, who shall I tell the Hebrew people sent me? When God said, you have to lead them. So who am I going to say sent me? They're not going to believe me. And God says, YHVH, Tetragrammaton, I will become what the Hebrew people need me to become. It's the most important piece of knowledge on magic, which is being right now guarded heavily by the Cabal. They tell you Hashem. That's because they're trying to trick you. This is like saying, oh, the economy, it's just so complicated. It's so hard to explain. Just understand that we're taking care of it. You've heard that one before, right? The economy isn't complicated. They have purposely overcomplicated it to siphon money off of you in a debt system. They tell you it's too complicated. That's a narcissistic thing to do, by the way. It's a way to lie so that no one asks you questions about the scam you're running. They do the same thing with the religion. Oh, it's too sacred of a name, we can't say it. Lies. It's impossible to say because it's not a word. God doesn't have a name you can speak. It's a concept. It's an understanding. It has to be beheld and understood. You know who beholds God? People who take DMT. When they go and they see the fifth dimensional objects that they can barely understand, and the elves speak reality into existence, but they talk and those things get created, and they're like, try it, do it. That's them teaching you word to flesh. Those elves are daemons. They're thought forms in other dimensions. Probably beings, like what the Islam talks about with the jinn. Not the evil ones, just the other beings that live in other dimensions that kind of like crisscross into ours sometimes, which is some of the reasons we see ghosts, for instance. They're trying to teach you how to speak word into flesh. It's probably a dimension where they already figured this out and they're trying to help us. Okay? So, that's what the Tetragrammaton really is. And there's certain people that know this and they guard that secret because it's the biggest secret in reality. That you can think and speak and act reality. Basically call upon nature to become what you want it to become. YHVH. You see how all this is connected? It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And I guess the predicament that I'm in is that I already know the truth about a lot of these things. And the problem I have to have is converting it into a language that people understand. If you understood what I understood, revolution tomorrow, peaceful revolution tomorrow, immediate transition into the golden age. My frustration is being able to articulate it and have to navigate all of these naysayers and trolls and narcissists and people working for the Babylon system that don't want this to happen. They don't want liberation. Free energy, done. Healthcare reduction costs to the point where they're only fixing you when you break a bone. All diseases healed, done. Just like that. Sound therapy healing, holistic health, natural remedies. Healthcare gets reduced globally by 90%. Healthcare demands. Overnight. Overnight. Fasting. Everyone just fasted for a couple weeks. Most of your ailments would go away. Hippocrates, what did he say? Doctors take the Hippocratic Oath. Hippocrates, the father of medicine. What does he say? What is the first medicine? Fasting. That hasn't changed. The human being hasn't evolved so much that fasting doesn't work anymore. It is the first medicine, right? Then you get back on a regular alkalized diet, okay? So, we have to break the spell, the pharmakia, the great delusions that are upon us. Propaganda. Holy smokes. It's taken a whole new level that's barely even comprehensible to me, and I know all this stuff. I went to school for it. And I still am like, what is going on? So that's why I was so hard on Christianity at first. A lot of people thought I was some kind of jerk. I was just an atheist. Or I'm not an atheist, not even close. They thought I was just making fun, said I was just trying to get views, piss off Christians. No, I'm trying to help all of you. We have to break these spells. Next, I went after New Age. Most of New Age are being tricked by demons. Demons are real. We're going to talk about demons too. I'm going to explain exactly what demons are, okay? Scientifically. By the way, whenever we're talking about spiritual concepts, understand that supernatural, metaphysical, spiritual exist within our reality. Therefore, they have organized systems. Therefore, they have mechanics. Therefore, we should be able to explain them in time as we study and understand them. The same way a mechanic is able to explain how a car works. We shouldn't ever do this airy-fairy woo-woo thing where it's like, I just intuited it. If intuition's a thing, then it also has mechanics. And one day we'll be able to explain it. Was it Arthur C. Clarke that said any science that is indistinguishable, or any science that's beyond our understanding is indistinguishable from magic? Magic is science. Science is magic. Same thing. It's just magic is something that we've used, a term we've used when we can't quite understand how something happens, or it's being kept from us, right? Oh, it's magic. Well, there's a way it works. There's a reason, right? For instance, that when you ask witches to do certain things, they always require something that has DNA, spit, hair, blood. Very important reason, because the DNA is your latitude and longitude in this universe. If they get your DNA, they can know you. They can know you, because they can take in your DNA, smell it, taste it, whatever it is, right? You know about this stuff. You've seen the movies. A lot of this stuff is real, by the way. But what they're doing is they're integrating the DNA into their DNA so that they can read it. Because their mind, the epigenetic layering that occurs, connection between the mind and the DNA, they can read the DNA as they take it in. Okay? It creates, this is what DNA does for you. Not only is it your book and it has every single thing you've ever done up to this second right now written on it. Also, DNA has an energetic component. It exists energetically all the time. Photons, they wrap around the DNA in the exact pattern and create a quantum signature. Therefore, you also have a quantum signature. Everything's connected by forces of nature. And so you can actually basically get the position of somebody in reality based on having their DNA. So these are the types of things where I'm explaining how we need to explain it in detail, how it works. Because then spirituality, it goes from this woo-woo thing that people think they can make fun of to something substantial. Like, why is it that we haven't actually had a real cultural revolution of taking supernatural things seriously? We have so much evidence of supernatural stuff and everyone just laughs it off because they're terrified. They're scared. They're either scared or they're being pushed by the cabal, by our oppressors, to not talk about it. Why is it after all these years no one touches supernatural in a real way that could actually get it out to the world, right? Why isn't there tons of journals written about the actual supernatural stuff? There's some stuff here and there, but it's not widely funded and it's not widely accepted by the population. Half of them are terrified. The other half are trying to keep the secrets to themselves because they know this stuff is true. That's the truth, okay? So with New Age, most of the time, listen, demons are 4 to 6 inch balls of static electricity. At least this is one species of demons. About that big, and they just kind of float around. They have this weird static electricity thing, okay? What they do is break up your connection to the Schumann resonance on the planet. they go into back here. You have an opening. And right here in the front, you can have an opening. And there might be other spots they can get in. But they go in basically through your chakras. How they do this is that they weaken your bioelectric field. Okay, your bioelectric field, your electromagnetic field protects you from these things. But if they can weaken it, right, where does your bioelectric field emanate from? Your heart. What is your heart the center of? Emotions. If they cause you to feel grief, sadness, anger, by jumping into your dreams and making you have scary nightmares that don't make sense, by getting somebody else first and then having them, like, you know, like when people like act like all of a sudden they've had a massive personality change and just start treating you like crap and harassing you and terrorizing you. Everyone's got a weird story where a friend just flips on their head, right? A lot of times they're possessed and the demon is using them to harass you and hurt you so that it weakens your field and then jumps. Demon delivery system. This is how they've done it for thousands of years, these demons. Okay? That's one way. Another way is they will come to you, not in a scary way, but in a way that you love. They'll appear to you as an angel if you believe in Christianity or Catholicism. They'll appear to you as a fairy if you believe in paganism. They'll appear to you as an alien if you're more of a scientific atheist person. They will appear to you as whatever they think is going to either seduce you or terrify you. But what they really are is just these little balls. They're pretty much innocuous, but they can play tricks on your mind. They get in, they break up your electrical field a little bit, so that you're not connected to the Schumann resonance and you're not at your highest power. And they sap off your energy. Why? Because demons are a technology that was created by human beings in the last age. I believe this is the mistake that Atlantis made. They had a demon technology and they created a demonic superweapon. Kind of like we had the nuke, they had their Project Manhattan, but it was spiritual. They realized you could speak word into flesh. So they created these beings. And then they use them to attack another nation. They use it, maybe even they use it as defensive. Maybe they weren't even being like evil with it. They were just using it as a defensive. They created these things to fight their enemies. And then they didn't put in a kill switch. They didn't do anything to put an end to them once it was done. So these creatures programmed for chaos and destruction continue doing what they were programmed to do. And because they were created out of consciousness and energy, that's how they continue to need to survive. So they're still sapping energy because that's how they get their fuel, and they're still destroying and scaring people because that's what they were programmed to do. Okay? It's really important to understand this. This is how they work. This is why we get the Loosh and the Matrix and the energy sapping. It's all real. Some of this metaphor, and they're trying to make it into reality with these pods and VR and all that, but it's all metaphor for the truth, that there are these beings, right? Why is it that 3 million people just in America alone have similar experiences of alien abduction with a gray alien being? Look, you know the pink elephant rule. If one person sees a pink elephant in the room, they might be losing it. If two people see the same pink elephant, then we got a pink elephant in the room. The question only becomes, what is it exactly? Not whether or not it exists. It exists in some way if two different people are seeing it. You've actually pinned it into objective reality. The question has to become, what's happening? What is a collective hallucination? Are all the other people not able to see it because they don't have as many cones and rods in their eyes to be able to pick up these other frequencies? Fun fact, human beings with all their 5 senses perceive 0.2% of the universe. 99.8% of the universe goes unobserved by the 5 human senses. And we're under the impression that the entire intelligent ecosystem is within that 2%? You got to be joking. Supernatural has, just by logic, the same people that would say, with all the billions of stars and the numerous planets on each star and all the galaxies, millions of galaxies, and we think we're the only ones here, use the same logic with the 500 times more reality that we're never perceiving with our 5 senses. You think there's nothing else here besides what you can see, smell, taste, touch, hear. That'd be a goofy notion to carry. Of course there's things outside. And they live on the outside of the visible light spectrum. And that's why you catch things out of the corner of your eye sometimes, because there's certain rods and cones that exist in different parts of your eye that can see different things. So yes, there's things all around us right now. There might be 20 things right around me right now. Intelligent entities right now. So the way that we solve this issue, like with the New Age, is we have to go within. As Christ said, the kingdom of heaven is within, right? The only thing you can be deceived by there is your ego and your shadow. Okay? So what do? Those are way less tricky things to deal with. Your ego is still tricky, okay? But it's not as tricky as something that can come to you as anything it wants to come to as and deceive you or scare you. You go within. If you hear these voices or you see these images of angels or what, clean the slate, bud. This is all cultural programming. Go within. God is within. God has such a different character. It's transcendent above all these things. And that's one of the major things I've been trying to teach you. There is a God. But you've been deceived by so many demons and people who have programmed our minds culturally through politics and religion and economy and media, etc., that we don't even know who God is anymore. God is real, and it is within you, and it is an understanding that can only be beheld, a felt experience in the present moment. It transcends an image. It transcends a name. It'll tell you it is the one with no name. I've been told that over and over again by God. I ask, what's the true religion? And they always say it's the one with no name. I did Reiki for a while. It came back again in a dream, and it said, Reiki's fine, Seiki's fine, whatever. But if you really want to know what the truth is, you seek the one with no name. Over and over again, I've received this. The one with no name. No doctrine, no dogma, no institution, no human master, no covenant or agreement. It's all within. All of it. And you will literally have the secrets, the keys to the universe once you reside there fully and have a true dialogue with the real Almighty, the Most High, and Gaia, Mother Earth. These are our mother and father. So, I've been busting down the New Age too, because there's a lot of lies in there, a lot of deception. The New Age's problem is they do not explain their mechanics. They do not explain the mechanics, and therefore demons can deceive them because they are not explaining to people how the things work. Astrology, tarot, galactic federation. They'll say they've intuited it, they've channeled it. It's nonsense. Don't believe a damn thing they say. If they just say they're channeling a message and they're not telling you how they're doing it, why they're doing it, what the character of the spirit is, they're saying it's Barganon from Zubalbapi dimension, and they're telling me that this is what we need to do. No. This is stupid. They have to talk about their character and their nature, how they word a sentence, how genuine it feels. Have they ever done anything that seemed trickstery? Have they ever given bad advice? All they ever say is, I'm channeling a message. Nonsense. Okay? BS. The answers are within. Okay? And they ring like a bell. We need discernment. God is not going to show up to you as some sort of alien creature or any other type of being. He is the invisible one, or the one beyond our vision. Okay? And he has a heart of gold, and so does Mother Earth. It's perfect. They are patient. They are waiting. They never push or force anything on you. They never tell you not to trust somebody. That's another thing a lot of people, I've seen a lot of people do. And a lot of people have gotten that from some spirit about me. Like, oh, they said not to trust you. I says, did they say why not to trust me? Did they give you an example? Did they tell you to ask me any questions to prove the spirit of it? No? Oh, they just said to not trust me. Oh, they just said I was evil or a narcissist. And you jumped on it without any evidence or asking to be shown how you could figure it out. Right? Because if it was a real God that was looking after you, what would God do? Is say, hey, he wouldn't say, oh, this person's evil, don't hang out around him. It says, they'd be like, you know, every time you're around him, you feel sad. Maybe you should look into why that's the case. Or they'd be like, ask them a question about this, or look at this information and see what you think about it. It's never, this person's bad, just don't trust them, stay away from them. That's something a crazy narcissist person does, to try to ruin relationships that are good for you. Notice that the characteristics of these demons actually match up perfectly with the narcissist, but not many of us have the sharp ears and eyes to be able to see these tactics, and we have to learn those things too. So what was the next thing that I did? I taught everyone about understanding black magic attacks, understanding the dark triad personality disorder, because this is our enemy. Who is the oppressor? It's hard to tell. Based on the historical evidence, we were invaded by a non-human entity, and they currently exist around us all the time. And they have infiltrated secret societies, royal families, entire countries, religions, the Vatican, absolutely. The Bavarian Illuminati. Well, that's them, whatever they are. But they've infiltrated so many different religions, ethnicities, political parties, countries, that if we were to ever try to nail it to one of those things, then we're dealing with what? With some kind of bigotry and potentially very dangerous situation of a genocide of a people that have nothing to do with it. These are the name changers. These are the mask wearers. They infiltrate an organization or a country or a religion or an ethnicity or a language. They begin pretending they are that, and then they commit atrocities and humanitarian disasters. This is how they do it. And they deceive and they trick and they kill and they lie. But we don't know exactly who they are, and therefore we have to test the spirit. We have to know the tactics of the enemy. We can't know the face of the enemy because they're the name changers. They're the mask wearers. We have to test the spirit. So the next thing I focused on was, who is thine enemy? Who is the adversary? The adversary is evil itself. The adversary is narcissistic personality traits. The adversary is psychopathy, sociopathy. And the question becomes, can we heal that? And how do we have the master plan for therapy that it actually heals and liberates these people who are possessed by these spirits of anger, grief, sadness, bitterness, right, lust, or if it's a real demon. So that was the next thing we did. Now, we're just finishing up on basically Magic 101, teaching all of you how to create magic by teaching you the mechanics. Your subconscious mind is a supercomputer that processes at rates that you can't even begin to understand. If I can pick up this object and say I'm going to let go of it, you could tell me it's going to fall and make a noise. That was computation that you did. You predicted the future. Sure, very simple example, but you did that with your conscious mind in a split second. You're using, just for that, you probably use 0.5% of your brain just to do that one computation. 99.5% more. That's how you prophesy. That's one way how you prophesy. That's one way how you divine. It's your brain. If you really were like, I know the answer to this, I can do this, your brain's going to hear it and be like, yep, we got it. And it can compute these things for you to the point where it would literally subconsciously give you urges throughout the day to leave at the right time from your house, take the right turn, take the right detour, to land exactly where you are to get your prayers answered. It could tell you what's going to happen a week from now in the stock market or in politics, because your brain is so powerful. I can't even explain to you how insane that the power is. And you are linked to every other brain. They're trying to make AI supercomputers and all that. We already have a supercomputer, the greatest supercomputer. All human minds are linked, in something like a Wi-Fi. But it's more like, the fundamental forces of nature, electromagnetic, gravity, and all those. Those forces actually quantum entangle all of us to each other. That's why sometimes you get that, you can read someone's mind or finish your twin's sentence. The reason you can finish your twin's sentence more than you can finish other people's sentences is because your guys' DNA is almost exact, if not exact. So the DNA is emanating frequency, emanating like radio transmissions. And your DNA is matched perfectly to that frequency, to that channel on the radio station. And that's how you can pick up their thoughts. That's why you can kind of feel a bad feeling or a good feeling, or when your family's going to call, because your guys' DNA is so close, and this stuff is traveling at faster than the speed of light. It was basically we're all attached by strings with perfect tension. So that requires no time for it to move, because it's so tense that if it moves here, it automatically moves there. That's what quantum entangling is. Quantum entanglement is the fact that all of these things are attached by strings. Okay, so if this electron moves, it has to move because it's at perfect tension, right? It has to move with it. It's like, think of like a wheel with axles. You roll one wheel, and the other wheel is going to move immediately because the force is tense the whole way through. It's already locked in. Okay? So the same thing is true about these, but it's even more grand scale because people will argue, well, when you push it, it actually has to send a sort of current to the other side. This is like trans-dimensional. So when one thing moves, the other thing moves. So like when you have twins, they can finish each other's sentence. That's because the thoughts in the twins' mind can be transferred almost immediately because the DNA is so matched up, they're picking up on the same frequency. Okay? This is going to be learned. This is going to be discovered. Hopefully, if we're going in the right direction, within 5 to 10 years, it'll happen within that amount of time. Along with a bunch of other revelations that are just completely blow your mind. All these fantasy stories are real, man. Atlantis is real. Sound frequency healing, magic, being able to literally speak and things get made. We're going to learn a language that can actually do that. So, with all that being said, what's the next step? The next step is the hardest because it's going to require people to sort of let their egos go and trust me. Because everything from here on out is really more scientific experimentation, which is going to require you to have faith the size of a mustard seed to just try the things I teach out in your real life. I've given the entire fundamental basis of all the things that you needed in order to start acting in faith with all the things I taught. And this video was a perfect example of me kind of giving you the summary foundations of all those things. Magic is totally real. God spoke the word became flesh. In the beginning, there was a big bang. The vibrations from that frequency manifested particle, matter, energy in space-time. Right? It's the same story. It's the same exact thing. So now we have to test that out. There are languages. There are modes of thinking. There are movements with the body. There are symbols we can draw that are two-dimensional representations of five-dimensional energies casting shadows in our three-dimensional reality. That's how sigil magic works. You're calling upon power from other dimensions. When you draw it here, it's quantum. Again, it's a different thing than quantum. It's even beyond that. But as you draw or move or speak, some things are happening in other dimensions. And then there's like a radiation or an emanation from the hyperdimensional objects you create beyond the visible light spectrum, beyond the four dimensions, that then cast energies here. Okay? What is a spirit, an angel, an angle of light, a daemon, a tulpa, an egregore, a thought form, a stellar daemon, a genie in a lamp? These are all thought forms constructed in hyper-organization or high organization, which become living beings. They just don't exist in the visible light spectrum. The genie lives on the edge of fire. The genie is created by smokeless fire by God. Smokeless fire. What is smokeless fire? It's frequency, energy, pure energy without any need for like a carbon, like a fuel. It's perfectly clean and pure. There's no dirty. There's no requirement. The fuel is 0 point, emanating from these Planck length dimensions curled into every Planck length of space and time. It's a hologram. So you can create these things. They already exist. Probably most of them were technologies made by us, but you can make one right now by creating a comic book character, but believing it's existing and it's being created in these higher dimensions and outside the visible light spectrum. Get a notebook, write a character, make it like a spirit animal. Start with a spirit animal and imagine the idea of Patronus, a protective spirit animal. Pick what you like, draw it, give it a name, write a poem about it, list its characteristics, what it can do for you, sing a song when you want to call it to you. And then meditate on it being around you. Whenever you're just hanging out, imagine like if it's a hawk or a falcon, it like, kind of sits on the edge of a chair with you and you're there, and just imagine. And you breathe that Holy Spirit, the chi, which is carried on the air. That energy stores in your belly. When you build up extra, you give the tulpa some of it. You give this egregore. It's like in His Dark Materials, the daemons, the They're not evil demons. They're your Patronus. They're your spirit animal. Start with a spirit animal that guides you and protects you. That is like your partner in crime. Interlock it with your being. Make it like a soulmate. Talk about twin flames and soulmates. Don't look for a human being as your twin flame soulmate. That's nonsense. There's going to be people you fall in love with that are awesome. There's not one person that was made for you. This is silly, silly, silly. Another example of how lost New Age has become. From Rudolf Steiner and Blavatsky and all these folks. Like a lot of these. Blavatsky's not everything I believe, but there's a lot of powerful stuff there. And Steiner and Hall, like, and Ouspensky and Gurdjieff, that was New Age. That was real. That is a romantic revitalization of the past, which was super wise, these ancient mystics, and they were pulling this stuff to the forefront and saying, wow, this stuff's real. And then the last 20 years has been psyops by the CIA. So, really important to understand that this is accessible to everyone. You need no master, guru, middleman, institution, covenant, church, religion. It's all bullshit. It's you. You must go on your personal journey. People like me, we're just guides. I'm just helping you to not fall into the bushes and the hedgerow on the narrow path. I'm just giving you clues and advice like, hey, this is what I did, and this is what worked. This is how you know truth from lie. My way isn't the way. I went my way, but I picked up a bunch of these things on the way that are really helpful. I'm just a guide. And above all, I am a servant. If anyone tells you anything differently, guru, master, leader, bullshit. Teacher, servant, guide, helper, advisor. Anyone tries to take a master role over you, fuck them. Most gurus worth their salt will tell you, I'm not your master, I'm not your guru. I'm just like a real close friend of God that knows how to like help you like break down these walls and get rid of your ego and do the right practices for your health and your mentality and your emotions. So just remember that. Serve no master besides the one that resides within, which is God, the Almighty, the true one God, the Most High, exists within you because He knew. He knew. Yeah, I bit by something. He knew that there would be so many things outside of you that would try to trick you. And he knew that these things could turn into whatever they wanted you to see. So He had to go within, where you couldn't be deceived. That's why you must go within to find God. And that's why Christ said that. He said the kingdom of heaven is within. And then He also said, you want to find God? Look under a rock. Running stream, blowing breeze. He said it is nature itself. It's the real phenomenological world, not conjecture about a channeling of a spirit. It's always bad. It's always bad if they show up in image and name. Worship no false idols. Worship no false idols. It's not just golden calves, folks. It's anything that shows up as an image. An idol and an image are synonymous in this example. He is within, and Mother Earth is around you. Those are your gods that you need to be talking with and establishing a dialogue. Not the gray aliens from Zeta Reticula. Not the tall whites from Zebulganubi or fucking Pleiades. This is nonsense. Nonsense. So, concluding, it's time to start testing these things. It's time to merge religion, science, mysticism, spirituality. It's time to go back to our shamanic and indigenous roots. It's time to lift those people back up. You know what? That's the last message. Native Americans living on reservations. Excuse me? That's a prison. African Americans still having to live in impoverished communities that were destroyed by the government and other racist organizations. Generational trauma, not healed. Indigenous people being slowly or quickly pushed into smaller and smaller boxes of nature as we tear everything down. They have the secrets. They have the true religion. They have our way back home to Eden. After doing this 10,000-year trek to understand what it means to be like God, now we can return home with all this great gifts of wisdom, as Terence McKenna said. We must return. That's why we all rewrite these stories like Pocahontas and Avatar and Game of Thrones, because we have to return to the wildling, to the indigenous, to the shaman who is still connected to nature. And we have to take what was good from what we learned from this trek and dispose of what didn't work. What's eating the planet, what's causing strife and suffering and debt and poverty and starvation and war. We can dispose of these things, reintegrate the old ways, bring back the feminine, merge it with the masculine, and create a truly harmonious world. I'm not talking about utopia. It's not going to be perfect, but it can be so much better than this. And the fact that most people don't realize we're living inside of a prison is something that's holding us back in profound ways. And so, speak wisdom, speak love, seek truth. Don't seek to be right. Seek to be in a place where you are actually right. Don't try to appear right. Don't try to win arguments. Try to find truth with your collaborators, not your competitors. Anybody you're engaging in a conversation with about truth, with philosophy, religion, spirituality, whatever, these are your collaborators to truth. There is only one objective truth. Don't listen to nonsense BS people say, my truth, my truth. You don't have a truth. It's impossible. It's a subjective experience you're having. There's only one truth. It is objective. It is something we can agree on together for the harmony of all human beings. Can't run around having 10,000 truths. No, that's the problem with our reality now, and that's why nations go to war, because every nation's got their own truth. It's BS. So, I hope that this is helpful, and I hope that this will be a call to mental and emotional arms to work toward a new covenant, to work toward a new philosophy that works for everyone. That isn't some new world order where everyone has to listen to one person because they said so. No. We serve God. We serve truth. We serve the wisdom of Christ. Amen. Y'all have a wonderful day. Love you guys. I'm taking a little break from social media, but I thought I'd give this sort of last explanation of what's going to happen once I take this break. I'm going to be doing a lot of work, a lot of praying, a lot of fasting, seeking the truth, and understanding how I'm going to teach this next very powerful and important lesson. Y'all have a wonderful Sunday. Love you guys. God bless. Peace and respect.